Hi gang, Tom Loria here, and welcome to the shop. And before we get into today's video, which is a bit different from other videos I've put out, but before we get into it, there are a couple of housekeeping things I'd like to take care of. One, continued thanks, of course, to you guys for subscribing and hitting the like and subscribe buttons and the notification buttons. It's been a big help, and thank you for your continued support. That's one. Number two, I gave YouTube a bit of a black eye. They probably didn't even notice, but this channel is a no chump zone. I bemoan the fact that YouTube doesn't let you pick and choose what advertisers get to advertise on your channel. That was a bit of misinformation on my part. It's actually not up to YouTube, it's actually up to Google AdSense. And if you go to the Google AdSense account on your channel, like I have, you'll see that you can pick and choose the content which you'd like to see advertised on your channel. So you can actually control it. So I was wrong. My apologies to the greater powers, and but that doesn't mean I'm going to put the ads back on. At least I'll keep them off until November because I said I would. And I hope you guys are enjoying the uninterrupted content, because I've been getting more and more annoyed when I go on YouTube and I have to sit through 2 5-second ads that I can't click out of, and then one that I'm finally allowed to click out of. And it's getting really, really annoying. But enough of that. And the third bit of housekeeping is not a bit of housekeeping at all, but a recognition of a fellow YouTube channel. Through my channel, I came in contact with an incredible musician from Italy. His name is Sandro Ivo Bartoli. If you put his name in your search bar on YouTube, and it's spelled exactly the way it sounds, Sandro, S-A-N-D-R-O, Ivo, I-V-O, Bartoli, B-A-R-T-O-L-I. He's a concert pianist, and he tours all over Europe, and as you might imagine, since COVID-19 struck in the spring, all of his dates were canceled, and he found himself with an awful lot of free time on his hands, as many of us have. What he decided to do was to record all of Domenico Scarlatti's sonatas, of which there are 555. So this is no small undertaking, and every day he releases a new sonata with a bit of an intro into each one. And the intros, for those of us, myself included, absolutely, who don't have a deep understanding of classical music, these intros are priceless alone. All the pieces are short, between 3 and 7 minutes long, and that includes an intro, which is usually about a minute or so. So you're not investing a huge amount of time. I know a lot of people are probably thinking, oh man, classical music, when do I have 20 minutes to sit down and listen? No, you do have time. And it has been one of the saving graces for my sanity during this time of COVID, when things are so abnormal. It really is wonderful to just sit quietly and listen to a real master of his art explain what he's doing, and then to hear it in these wonderful, clear, beautifully portrayed sounds. So I urge you to go check him out and subscribe to his channel, just for your sanity alone. Now, the last piece of my little housekeeping intro here is to actually explain what it is I'm about to present to you, because this is not one of my videos. Back in, I think it was the winter of 2018, my son and daughter-in-law were up in Cape Cod with us for a visit. And my daughter-in-law had never been to Mystic Seaport. My son, ever since he was old enough to run around on his own, has been at Mystic Seaport all his life. So this was a place very familiar to him and very special, and he wanted to share it with his wife, and we were thrilled that she wanted to experience it. So we all went down to Mystic Seaport. And for some reason, my daughter-in-law, Monique, said, you know, it would be really nice if we could record some stories of how you came to do what you do, ship modeling. And I said, honestly, Mo, I don't know who would be interested in it besides me, but sure, if you want to do it, let's do it. So we went into a very quiet area of the Mystic Seaport grounds, and we sat, and my son and my daughter-in-law, asked me some questions, and I spoke. I mean, all you really have to do when it comes to ship modeling is ask me, so what is it you do? And be prepared to sit for the next hour and a half. Time went by, I completely forgot that they had done this. This past summer, they came up for a visit, and they gave me a Father's Day card. And it came in my email, and it was the video that followed. They did a wonderful job, and I thought, what am I going to do with this now? I'll share it with you guys. Hopefully, it'll explain some of my obsession with ship modeling, and it'll give you a little glimpse of Mystic Seaport and what makes it so special. So I hope you enjoy this wonderful Father's Day card that I got from my kids. Enjoy.
The man you all know and love, Tom Loria, has been producing videos over the last 2.5 years about building handcrafted, museum-quality model ships. Honestly, I couldn't be more proud to be his son. As of this video, he has nearly 3,000 subscribers. If you're one of those, maybe you're here because you're also a model builder in search of guidance and ideas. Perhaps you're like me, and you find his talent, passion for his craft, and hairy knuckles captivating. Either way, I thought some of you might like to get to know the man behind the videos a bit more. A while ago, we took a trip back to where it all began for him. I hope you enjoy this rare glimpse into a true master of his art.
We're here at one of my favorite places on the planet, Mystic Seaport. I started coming to Mystic Seaport when I was 10 years old, and I've been doing it now for 56 years. It's just an amazing place. It never changes, and it always changes. There are things that I've seen here that I saw when I was a boy, and every time I come back, I see something different. My first experience, that was probably the thing that set me off on what the rest of my life was like. I was about 10 years old, and I belonged to a group. We were like Boy Scouts, except we didn't wear olive drab uniforms. We wore little sailor suits. One year when I was either 9 or 10, I was probably 10, they organized a trip to the New London submarine base. And then they said, all right, pile back in the bus, we're going to Mystic Seaport. And none of us knew what Mystic Seaport was. And we came up here to the seaport. It was probably 1962, maybe. I think we're in the Mallory building right now. Across the quad from us is the Stillman building. So I went into the Stillman building, and it was just a huge empty room from one end of the building to the other. And all that was in there were ship models. And I thought I had died and went to heaven. And I just didn't know where to look first. There were ship models that were this big, and there were ship models that were literally 7 or 8 feet long. And it was just, I totally got gog-smacked. It was just amazing. that was one experience. But the other experience that really had a profound effect on the rest of my life, really, was being on the Charles Morgan. We didn't know what the Morgan was. We didn't know its significance or anything like that. Nobody bothered to tell us. And we're all just kind of milling around, and some of the kids were like, oh, wow, look, we're on a pirate ship, oh, wow, you know. But that didn't happen to me, and I walked around on the deck, and then we went down below, and I went in, I looked at the captain's quarters, I looked at his day salon, and I looked at the, you know, the bed on the gimbals that they had there and all that, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. And right in the middle of that area is the officers' mess, which is basically just a table with two benches, one on each side, and the mizzenmast runs right through the table. And that's where the officers, the first, second, and third mate, and the captain, all took their meals. And there was a steward's pantry off of that. And I looked in the steward's pantry, and I started getting this really strange feeling, something totally unfamiliar to a 10-year-old. And then I sat down on one of the little benches at the officers' mess. And I sat there, and I felt all the hair on my little 10-year-old arms starting to stand up on end. I couldn't explain it. I had no reason to feel this way for any particular reason, and I just didn't know what to do with it. But I knew that I was somewhere special. And I never really forgot that. It was just something that I wanted to come back here again. As soon as I got my own car, one of the first places I drove to was Mystic Seaport. That feeling was still there. And then at this point, it was at least a couple of times a year I would come up. And of course I would always go on the Morgan. And it was during one of the visits here that I met the guy that they had working in the model shop. And I walked in, and there's this old guy, probably wasn't that old, but he looked old to me. And he's working on a ship model. And he's got 2 or 3 of his ship models in the shop with him. And I'm looking at I'm looking at the models he's working on, which is gorgeous. And I'm looking at his models. He's got a model of the Joseph Conrad, which is one of the ships here. And he's got a model of something else. I couldn't remember what it was, but they were all beautiful. And I was looking at the detail, and I was looking at the way all of the details appeared on his model. And I started peppering him with questions, and I stayed there probably 2 hours, and he patiently answered all my questions. So I would come up here, and the first place I'd go is to that little model shop to see if Mr. Quincy was there and see if I could pester him some more. As I got more and more answers from him, I started incorporating what he shared with me into my own models. My own models started becoming less and less like, you know, some hobby guy, and something a bit more, something above that. That's how these visits to Mystic finally started manifesting in my own life. Now there was an outlet for all of this stuff I had been gathering from all the years before. You know, there are a lot of aspects to building models that have nothing to do with actually producing a replica of a ship, and yet they do. When my son Austin was 3 or 4, he would go to daycare. I was working at home. I was doing furniture repair and building ship models. I'd pick him up, we'd come home, I'd make lunch for us both, and then the 2 of us would sit in front of the TV and watch the happy painter, Bob Ross. And watching Bob Ross probably taught me more about color and how to use color than anything I've learned anywhere else. The way he explained things made it very clear how bendable color is and how effective it is if you bend it a certain way as opposed to another way. Bob Ross was a big influence on me. As a matter of fact, somebody on one of the videos left a comment that said something, I know I'm going to get it wrong, but basically what they said was, "Wow, man, you are the Bob Ross of ship model building." I took that as the highest compliment. I mean, he couldn't have paid me a nicer compliment. The time it takes to do a model can vary a lot. Something like a Beetle catboat really doesn't take me that long, because first of all, it's a small, very simple subject. And I've done so many of them. I've built over 50 Beetle catboats in the last 30 years. And I have so much of the form and the specific measurements for things in my head and under my fingers that it just comes out naturally at this point. When you're working on something that you've never built before, it always takes a long time, because now you've got to measure every single thing. And you've got to figure out a way to get it to scale. And that always takes a long time. No, a lot of persistence, but no patience. I am always in a hurry to see this thing done. Whatever this thing is, it's in front of me. I'm always in a hurry. In a lot of ways, I kind of feel compelled to do the YouTube videos. Some years ago, I had joined a group called the USS Constitution Model Shipwright Guild. The main focus of that group was to share what everybody knew, so that when you sit in that room and there are 45 or 50 other guys around you, and all of those guys are a lot older than you, you're probably sitting in the presence of about 1,000 years worth of knowledge. So that whole culture of passing on what you know, we're all standing on somebody else's shoulders. I stand on William Quincy's shoulders. I stand on Rob Napier's shoulders. I stand on Eric Ronberg's shoulders. I stand on Matt Lupo's shoulders. You know, I've got to be willing to put my shoulders out there for somebody else to stand on. And that's the main reason I almost feel compelled to do these.